Women waiting for her missing relative. People rescuing their belongings from the wreckage of mangled homes. A cathedral damaged due to heavy shelling. A rescue dog trying to sniff out survivors. And people walking past an unexploded rocket-propelled grenade. This is not Syria. These images are from the war in South Caucasus. One of the world's oldest conflicts, the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, has remained unresolved for almost 3 decades, with periodic bouts of fighting. On the 27th of September, a fight broke out over the breakaway region of Nagorno-Karabakh. It is internationally recognized as a part of Azerbaijan, but controlled by ethnic Armenians. The territorial dispute re-erupted with the heaviest clashes in years. Several hundreds killed, tens of thousands displaced, and dozens of civilians perished on both sides. The 2 ex-Soviet republics are at the brink of war, and the world is watching in alarm. While in Azerbaijan's capital Baku, residents express strong support for the nation's military. In other parts of the world, the Armenian community united for their country. Waving flags of Nagorno-Karabakh, hundreds of demonstrators in an Armenian suburb of the Lebanese capital took part in a show of solidarity with the embattled Armenian enclave in Azerbaijan. In France, Armenians were seen protesting outside the Turkish embassy. Turkey was the first state to recognize Azerbaijan's independence from Soviet Union in 1991. And has been a staunch supporter of Azerbaijan. And in Washington, D.C., Armenian protesters gathered outside the White House demanding greater condemnation of Azerbaijan and its backer, Turkey. In Los Angeles, too, protesters marched in support of Armenia. Even in Latin America, scores of Armenians marched in support of their country. So what's behind the fighting in Nagorno-Karabakh? What is the role of foreign players in the conflict? What is at stake? Why has a ceasefire failed time and again? Let's delve into the history. In the early decades of the 20th century, the newly formed Soviet Union drew out borders and created well-defined national territorial units among the diverse ethnic population of the USSR. The territorial dispute into the limelight with the dissolution of the Soviet Union that lasted from 1988 to 1991. Nagorno-Karabakh was a Christian-majority region with Armenians, but the Soviets gave control over the area to Azerbaijan authorities. It remains a part of Azerbaijan, a majority Muslim country. As the Soviet Union began to collapse in the late 1980s, that Nagorno-Karabakh's regional parliament officially voted to become part of Armenia. This became the root cause of the conflict. A separatist movement backed by Armenia was underway, while Azerbaijan sought to suppress it. Stepanakert, the capital of Nagorno-Karabakh. This is where it lies on the map, towards the west of Azerbaijan and east of Armenia. On the 22nd of February 1988, in what became known as the Askaran Clash, thousands of Azerbaijanis marched towards Nagorno-Karabakh, demanding information about rumors of an Azerbaijani having been killed in Stepanakert. They were informed that no such incident had occurred. Dissatisfied with what they were told, they continued marching, massacring 50 Armenian villages in the process. During the clashes, 2 Azerbaijanis were left dead. These deaths were announced on a state radio. This led to a pogrom. Sumgait, a seaside town near Azerbaijan's capital Baku. For 3 days, from the 27th to the 29th of February 1988, the Armenian population of Sumgait was subjected to brutal murders, violence and plunder. 32 people were killed, 14,000 Armenian residents of Sumgait fled. It was full-fledged war and it lasted until 1994. In its weakened state, the Soviet Union, led by the first and last president of the USSR, Mikhail Gorbachev, chose to only partially involve itself in the conflict. Armenian forces gained control of Nagorno-Karabakh. Azerbaijan vowed to regain control over the territory. A Russian-brokered ceasefire was declared in 1994. However, international efforts over the years to find a lasting peace settlement involving France, the United States, and Russia as mediators have failed.
This morning, the Armenian armed forces fired on our settlements as well as our military positions using various weapons, including heavy artillery from several directions. As a result of enemy fire, there are casualties among the civilian population and our servicemen. May God have mercy on our martyrs. The Azerbaijani army is currently firing at the enemy's military positions, and as a result of these strikes, many of the enemy's military equipment has been destroyed.
There is no fear. We have our pride. There will be victims. A war is a war.
The incident happened last night. We were sleeping. 2 bombs went off. They called us around 3:30 am. The street was completely ruined. We came to find the shop like this. This is the result of terrorism. I hope we will retaliate. This is nothing. What is important is to stand by the country.
Since the 27th, we have been sitting in a basement. We took all the younger children to Yerevan because they were so frightened that they had stopped talking. The elderly who were in wheelchairs are here. It is scary. You can't even imagine our situation. We don't know who will be hit next in the shelling. We tremble in the basement when we hear it. Every day we live with this fear.
I left my house and 5 or 10 minutes later, boom, there was an explosion. Luckily there was no one home. I'm lucky to be alive.
The military plane bombed the mountain. The mountain blew up. Then the plane hit us. I opened the door of the car and I told the rest to run away. There were 15 of us in total. 2 men and the rest were women. 2 women ran and hid, but the plane hit them. I could see that they were wounded.
Why has fighting broken out now? Tensions between the two sides have been building over the summer. On the 12th of July this year, clashes occurred between the Armenian armed forces and the Azerbaijani armed forces near Movsez in the Tavush province of Armenia. And the Agdan in Tovuz district of Azerbaijan at the Armenian-Azerbaijani state border. The timing is significant. The 3 major countries that have mediated in the past for peace in the region, Russia, France, and the United States, are distracted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The second factor is the upcoming US presidential election. The lack of involvement from the US may be contributing to the conflict's rapid escalation. Lebanon's Beirut blast and the Belarus power struggle could also have diverted the world's attention from what was unfolding in Nagorno-Karabakh. Turkey, which held large military exercises with Azerbaijan in July and August, has been even more conspicuous in its support compared with past crises. The President Tayyip Erdogan has declared that Ankara will stand by Azerbaijan with all its resources and heart.
Azerbaycan topraklarına saldıran Ermenistan'ı bir kez daha kınıyorum. Türkiye tüm imkanları.
Once again I condemn Armenia, which attacked Azerbaijan's lands yesterday. Turkey will continue to stand with the friendly and brotherly Azerbaijan with all its resources and heart. It is time to end the crisis in the region, which started with the occupation of Nagorno-Karabakh. The region will once again see peace after Armenia immediately withdraws from the Azeri lands it's occupying. Any impositions and proposals other than this will not only remain unjustful and unlawful, but also continue to spoil Armenia.
I want to draw your attention to the fact that Turkey already stated that Azerbaijan should not stop fighting after the adoption of this statement. Turkish Foreign Affairs Minister made a phone call to Azerbaijan, which was really an instruction not to dare, under any circumstance, to stop the fighting. Especially because the Moscow statement had clearly stated that Turkey cannot be engaged in the negotiations of Karabakh issue. Being engaged in the negotiations, in this case for Turkey, is not about the Karabakh issue. It is about acquiring the legitimate right to be present in the South Caucasus.
Իսկ Ղարաբաղի հարցի բանակցություններում ներգրաված լինելը տվյալ դեպքում Թուրքիայի համար Ղարաբաղի հարցի համատեքստը չի կրկին։
Did you know that Turkey was the first state to recognize Azerbaijan's independence from the Soviet Union in 1991? In fact, former president of Azerbaijan, Heydar Aliyev, once described both countries as one nation with two states, referring to their cultural and historical ties. Over the years, to preserve its territorial integrity and to realize the economic potential arising from the rich natural resources of the Caspian Sea, Ankara has always been a staunch supporter of Baku. And then there's this. Historically, Armenia holds a grudge against Turkey over the massacres of some 1.5 million ethnic Armenians by Turkey. This happened under the Ottoman Empire between 1914 and 1923. More than 30 countries have recognized the killings as genocide, though Ankara fiercely disputes the term. As expected, even now, Turkey has firmly put its weight behind oil-rich Azerbaijan. Armenian officials claim that Turkey had sent fighters from Syria to support Azerbaijani forces amid intensifying fighting over the disputed region. Several Turkish fighters, F-16s, were reportedly spotted in the city of Ganja. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan called Armenia the biggest threat to peace in the region. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan hit back, urging the international community to ensure Turkey does not get involved in the conflict.
Это трагедия. Мы очень переживаем.
This fighting is a tragedy. We are very concerned. Azerbaijan, Armenia, people who live on these territories are not strangers to us. It's enough to mention that here in Russia we have around 2 million Azeris, and according to our estimation, over 2 million Armenians.
По нашим подсчетам, армян.
Russia, which maintains close ties with Armenia, is considered to be a major power broker in the region. After the dissolution of the Soviet Union, Armenia and Russia became members of a military alliance, the Collective Security Treaty Organization. In fact, Russia was viewed as a protector of the Christian subjects in the Ottoman Empire, including the Armenians. Moscow even had a military base 120 kilometers away from Armenian capital of Yerevan, called the Russian 102nd Military Base. The Russian brokered truce has now failed, and with ethnic Armenian and Azeri forces clashing one more time, all eyes are on Russia. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that Moscow disagrees with Turkey's position on the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict and that a military solution was unacceptable.
We
do not agree with the position voiced by Turkey. That was also expressed several times by Azeri President Aliyev. It is not a secret that we cannot agree with the statement that a military solution to the conflict is permissible.
But what will Russia do next? Will it step up? In the last 2 decades, Azerbaijan has redefined itself from a struggling state to a major regional energy player. Energy-rich Azerbaijan is connected to global markets by a number of crucial pipelines. The Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan oil pipeline, the Baku-Supsa pipeline, and the South Caucasus gas pipeline. The pipelines pass through the narrow Ganja Gap, named after Azerbaijan's second most populous city. On October the 6th, Azerbaijan accused Armenia of targeting the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan oil pipeline, something that Yerevan denies. This pipeline is used to export oil from the Azeri, Chirag, and Gunishli oil fields operated by BP. Oil and gas account for 37% of total GDP and 80% of the country's exports. Already, the country is suffering from the low energy prices caused by the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. Azerbaijan claims that Armenian forces in Nagorno-Karabakh have been shelling Ganja to disrupt the flow of oil and gas. It's important to note that Azerbaijan is trying to pitch itself as an alternative supplier to Russia for the European nations. Experts believe Russia potentially holds the key. Apart from Armenia, Russia also enjoys good relations with Azerbaijan and has no interest in the conflict spreading. If its diplomacy succeeds, Moscow could earn kudos for ending the fighting at a time when it is under intense criticism on other fronts. The Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu made a new appeal for peace by telephone to the Azeri and Armenian defense ministers, urging the countries to fully meet the commitments made under the humanitarian ceasefire brokered by Moscow. It's also important to understand that the conflict has worsened the spread of COVID-19. World Health Organization spokesman Tarek Jasarevic told a United Nations briefing in Geneva that new cases doubled over the past 2 weeks in Armenia and rose by 80% in Azerbaijan. With so much at stake, it's time for both the nations to step back and think about all that they have lost so far.